afternoon, everyone. I'm always amazed at the attendance here, and um, Betsy Sikma of Milliken, Senior Director of Brand and Communications. Betsy, I don't know if you remember, but you and I sat at a table at a peak event. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. And I think that's where I had met you for the first time. And I share with you some of the comments that I'm going to share here as I speak briefly about Milliken before turning it over to you. Um, I have had both of my children have run cross country, and so we are familiar with your campus over there in Spartanburg. As every year, it's at least host to the Eye Opener, maybe other running events as well, and that has just proven to be fantastic. But I've also been over to your location, and I've seen I think the wall that showcases the number of patents that Milliken is responsible for. I've been in discussions with so many of your team, and the commitment to economic and social governance is high isn't the right word, particularly in comparison to other organizations here in the Southeast and particularly in South Carolina. So congrats to Milliken for being such a leader in that category as well. So Betsy, I'm grateful to have you on to be our Tatt Chat speaker this month, and I want to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on in Milliken.
All right. Well, thank you, David. I do remember, I think it was last year, but who in the world can keep up with time anymore? I feel like once COVID happened, it was like all just a wash. Everything just is in some sort of space-time continuum that's beyond my understanding. But it's good to see you again, and thanks for the introduction. So great to be with you all. I'm seeing a lot of faces of good friends. Thanks for showing up to support. I'm thrilled to be with you, 10 at the Top team. I'm stepping in for my colleague, George Shira, who had to travel today. And so I'm glad to be here and glad to represent not only Milliken, but the upstate. I am Betsy Neely Sikma. I am an upstate South Carolina native. I was born and raised right here in Spartanburg. And then I went to undergrad right over in Greenville, went to Furman University. And then I left for about 20 years, got a graduate degree and spent some time in other states and boomeranged back. Just a few years ago, spent a little bit of time working at what used to be known as the Spartanburg Area Chamber of Commerce. It's now One Spartanburg, before coming over to Milliken. I have been at Milliken and Company for about 4.5 years, which is just unbelievable. David, speaking of time being really weird, it's hard to imagine that 4.5 years have gone by. But you're right, I am the Senior Director of Brand and Communications here at Milliken. And what that looks like is I lead a team of exceptional associates who do all things communications, community relations. We run the Milliken and Company Charitable Foundation, and we're also responsible for what we call people experience here at Milliken. So kind of gave you a little intro about me, but I'm curious, and I see some have already started to do this. I'm curious, just in the chat, if you're willing, tell me who you are and where you're dialing in from. It's always so interesting to see folks showing up from all over the upstate. And I see a lot of familiar folks here. That's great. Perfect. Hi, Charm. Recognize you. That's great. Perfect. All right, folks coming in from all over, filling up that chat. That's awesome. All right, Justine, would you go ahead and click over to the next slide for me? By the way, Justine, thank you for doing this. I was having some technical difficulties and couldn't get my deck in presenter mode, unbelievably. I'm sure it was user error, so Justine jumped in to help. All right, so before we get started, just sort of by show of hands, if you've got your camera on, who in this group has heard of Milliken before? Lots of hands. Good, good, that's great. All right, here comes the trick question. Who in this group feels like you could tell me who Milliken is and what Milliken does? Oh, Dean, you might get caught. David, you might get called on. I don't know. All
I
right.
already read your presentation, so I know.
There you go. Oh, I see Jim Shoe's got his hand up. Jim, I might call on you. You want to give us just a 5 seconds of who Milliken is and what we do?
So I guess originally, Roger Milliken started out, it was a textile manufacturing firm, but it's sort of since transitioned to work predominantly in, I guess, the chemical industry, and you have a number of patents in that space that you use for all kinds of different goods that we see every day as consumers.
That's not bad. That's pretty good. So you are right. 150 years ago, Milliken was founded as a privately held textile manufacturing company. We are still privately held. We are owned by the Milliken family, and are still in the textile business. But you are right, Jim, that over the last many years, we have made a transformation from really sort of an old school textile manufacturer to a true global diversified manufacturer, leading the way on a lot of things. And we'll talk about some of the products that we make. But a lot of things that make Milliken a place where I personally really want to work. And those things are our purpose and our values. So when I came to Milliken just about 4.5 years ago, we were in the process of re-articulating what we call our PVV, our purpose, values, and vision. And our purpose statement now says, together we strive to positively impact the world around us for generations to come. And our values are integrity, excellence, innovation, sustainability, and people. And I know people are probably rolling their eyes. Here comes another company talking about their purpose and values. But I will tell you that purpose and those values came from within. We got together with our people from around the world and worked together to craft that statement and to articulate those values. And they are truly lived values. Everything we do ladders up to our purpose and our values. And so I can say that we are truly a human-centric organization that is determined to do the right thing. And in my opinion, especially in recent years, to do the right thing really visibly and to try to be a leader, not just in Spartanburg, but in the world in that way. Okay, next slide, please. So a little more granular, we are, as I said, a global manufacturer from Spartanburg to Shanghai. Our associates rally around that common purpose to positively impact the world for generations and to do it together. We do that in 40 plus manufacturing locations. We have 70 total locations globally. In 15 different countries, we have 8,000 associates, and we make about 11,000 products. Okay, next slide. We currently live in 4 businesses: the textile, chemical, floor covering, and healthcare businesses. And within those businesses, we make all kinds of ingredients and components and fibers and products that you encounter every single day. In fact, we estimate that on average, a person in the US encounters a Milliken product up to 50 times a day. So it might be everything from the airbag in your car, which hopefully you aren't actually encountering. Hopefully everyone's having safe commutes. Could be the scrim that holds your roofing shingles onto your roof and keeps you safe during storms. Could be the ingredients that make your mattress fireproof in the event of some sort of emergency in your home. It's the fibers that are in your clothes. It's the clarifiers that make your Starbucks cup clear. We are in so many things. In the textile industry, we are in apparel, industrial, and automotive. In the chemical industry, we're in colorants and ingredients, plastic additives, and fine chemicals. In the floor covering area, we make carpet, luxury vinyl tile, and protective flooring. And healthcare, we do wound dressings, compression bandages, and hemostatic dressings. Okay, next slide. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what makes Milliken different. We like to talk about our people as curious minds who are creating inspired solutions. And we are driven by curiosity. We have scientists all over the world who are constantly innovating to try to make our products better and safer. Everything we do, as I said, ladders up to those values. So there's a purpose behind everything we do. And Milliken, for all its many years, has been committed to delivering essential performance and excellence. And I'll give you just a couple of examples. The first one I'll talk about on the driven by curiosity side. There's a story that I love, and if any of you have been to our innovation gallery, you've probably seen an image of this. Back in the 50s, one of our scientists was trying to create a new yarn that had elasticity. This was before any sort of stretch fabrics existed. This is before even the nylon and like hosiery was invented. And this person had gone home for winter holidays, was celebrating Christmas with his family. And one evening he was watching, I hope he was helping, but he was definitely watching his spouse wrap Christmas presents. And as his wife wrapped presents, she would tie them up in a bow, and then she would take some scissors, and what would she do with the ribbon and the scissors? Who knows? Yeah, she pulled the scissors across the ribbon to curl the ribbon. And he sat there and he watched her, and he realized that what she was doing was fundamentally changing the way that that material behaved by applying pressure, heat, friction, and speed. And with that observation, after the holidays, he came back and invented human-made stretchable nylon, which is in so many products that we all wear every day. And thank goodness, I don't know how many of you wear hosiery, but can you imagine it not being stretchable? I can't. So that's just one example of the way our people operate in the world, by just watching and listening and learning, and then taking those observations and applying them to the work that we already do to make it better. And it really is world changing. My favorite example of this and sort of the resiliency at Milliken happened during COVID, when our textile manufacturing team realized we had a whole line of textiles that went into graduation materials, caps and gowns, all made of recycled materials with sort of a water repelling quality. You know what caps and gowns look like. Well, this group of folks was sort of just watching the news, watching what was going on with COVID, and realized, one, nobody needs caps and gowns right now. This was in early 2020. And two, we could use those materials and use that technology to create medical PPE, personal protective equipment, for doctors and nurses and folks who are cleaning the facilities that are caring for people with COVID, and add some antimicrobial elements to them, add some repelling elements to them. And we did just that. We stopped the lines and shifted what we were doing and began creating FEMA-approved medical PPE to support during COVID. So those are just two examples of the way curiosity, purpose, and performance really, I think, set Milliken apart. as a manufacturer. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so here's just a snapshot of our textile business. You can see we already talked about a lot of the things that we make. Polar Tech is one of our brands. If you're an outdoors person, you might be familiar with the performance materials that we make. Milliken Napery, we make the interiors of your vehicles. Again, the sort of reinforcement that goes under the shingles of your house, we call that Cat 3. It's built to withstand Category 3 hurricanes and was created in the wake of Hurricane Hugo many years ago. In fact, fun fact, we make enough of that to go back and forth to the moon something like 10 times every year. It's really incredible. And another big part of our work is protecting folks in the military or folks who are out there performing utility services. Fire turnout gear is full of Milliken protective fabric. Textile business is our largest and oldest business, and we are the biggest textile player in the US still today. Next slide, please. And David, you were on it. Our fastest growing business is our chemical business, which really came out of textile innovations, but became something that Milliken really grew famous for in the 50s and 60s when we opened up our research and development center here at our Spartanburg headquarters. This is where we have most of our patents. This is where a lot of our innovation has taken place to date. Again, everything from colorants to clarifiers to things that make your paint dry faster. We're in the microchips that are in your phones and in your computers. And one of my favorite things about our chemical business today is that our scientists are working on making plastics more recyclable. Making recyclable plastics more like new. We call that virgin-like quality, so that we don't have to produce new plastic, but in fact create what we call circular economy.
Uh-oh.
Next slide, please.
There we go.
Freeze.
For a second, I think you're back.
Okay, sorry about that. You never know. Okay,
You're good now.
okay, perfect. The third largest business at Milliken is our floor covering business. Everything from carpets to luxury vinyl tile. My favorite thing about this business is that 2 years ago in November, our floor covering business became 100% carbon neutral, which for anybody who's in the construction or design industry, you know how difficult that is. But we are committed to reducing our carbon footprint, and our floor covering business was the first out the gate with 100% global carbon neutrality. So this is a big win for Milliken. Okay, next slide, please. Let's see if I stay unfrozen this time. There we go. The healthcare business is our newest and emerging business, but really one of the most, I think, needed. Our healthcare business launched in 2019 with the purchase of Andover Healthcare. We acquired Andover to sort of advance our work in wound care. Since that time, we've been able to apply some of our textiles and our chemical innovations to create truly amazing wound care solutions for folks who have burn wounds, or maybe who are diabetic and have open wounds. And there's just incredible technology that allows these bandages to wick away moisture as they sense that that's needed, and hold moisture where they sense that that's needed on a wound. Really incredible stuff happening in our healthcare business. And I think anyone who's got their eye on sort of the population of the US, unfortunately, this wound care work is going to be critically important in years to come, especially as our population continues to age and we do see more struggles with diabetes. So this is a big one and an emerging group for us. Next slide, please. Did I freeze again?
No, you're good.
Okay, perfect. So we're all about responsible manufacturing. We're all about manufacturing, but we want to do it the right way. And we sort of divide this into 4 categories: planet, product, people, and ethics. Planet is around our obligation to reduce our carbon footprint. Product is around just discovering new material science solutions. We make things, we want to make new and better things. We care about our people and the communities that our people represent, and we want to do the right thing in everything that we do. I mentioned earlier that sustainability is one of our core values, and we really, really mean that. You may have heard last year that we announced that we were on a path to reaching net zero carbon emissions. I think most of us on this call could probably securely say that climate change has placed daily growing pressures on companies, communities, countries. I mean, just listen to the news. We're hearing stories about climate disasters every day. And at Milliken, we know that the time to take meaningful action is now. So to that end, as a company that makes things, we have decided to do our part in reducing the amount of greenhouse gases that we produce as a company. So we made a commitment to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions across our value chain. That means through our suppliers, our customers, and ourselves by the year 2050. We established some near-term targets to make that happen. Those targets are through 2030, although we've hit many of them already. And then to become completely net zero, meaning that we don't put out any more greenhouse gases than no net greenhouse gases being emitted from our work by 2050. For those of you who follow this work, our targets have been approved by a group called the Science-Based Targets Initiatives, which is a collection of international organizations that's dedicated to helping companies set these emission reduction targets in line with climate science and the Paris Climate Agreement. This is a big step for Milliken, and it's a big step for South Carolina. We were one of the first 50 companies in the world to have SBTI approved targets, and the very first company in South Carolina to do so. We don't know exactly how we're going to do this work, but we're committed to doing it. We're committed to sharing what we learn with others, and we really want to be a leader in this space because we believe that it's essential change that needs to happen, not only for our company, but really for the benefit of all humankind. So this is probably our biggest push at this time. Okay, next slide, please. So at Milliken, we also invest in our communities, and we do that through financial gifts through the Milliken and Company Charitable Foundation. But my favorite way that we do this is through our volunteer hours. So as a company, we have a goal of hitting 100,000 volunteer hours by 2025. That nets out to about 20,000 volunteer hours per year. And we are going to blow past that goal this October with our Volunteer Olympiad. We love to pull a team of Milliken associates together to get out in the community and do something, whether it's building a house or packing a school bus with school supplies, or laying down carpet in a building that needs it, or trail cleanup. So if you have an organization that's looking for a a team of volunteers to swarm in and help, please let us know. We are here for it. And we actually, you know, are encouraged and required to do it by our company. Next slide, please. Justine, I really owe you for doing this. Thank you. So we have a lot to celebrate at Milliken, and this is really kind of the juice of what you asked me to share today, Dean. We've had a lot of external recognition over the last several years, which is wonderful, but we see it as a direct result of us living our values internally. Anybody who knows Milliken knows that safety and innovation are key to who we are. We also have been expanding our presence out of just Spartanburg and into Greenville. We launched a Milliken Plaza at the Greenville Drive earlier this year, where folks can interact with our innovations while they're at the baseball game. This year, we were really pleased to be given the recognition by Newsweek as one of America's most loved workplaces. And since that time, we've actually been named one of the world's most loved workplaces, one of Forbes' most innovative and best midsize employers. And then my favorite designation is our 17-time recognition as one of the world's most ethical companies by Ethisphere. These are things that we just consider to be sort of external recognition that we're doing the right thing by our people, by our planet, and that our products are making a difference in the world. So we have a lot to celebrate and a lot to continue to strive for. And then next slide, I'll just show you, this is a quick snapshot of our current leadership team. This team is really a rock star team of global experts in their areas with great collaboration and a vision for doing the right thing for our company and for the world. So with that, I'll stop talking at you. And Justine, if you'll just go to the next slide, or we can just close the slide deck. I'll take any questions that the group might have.
So I think David and I are going to start, but if anyone else has a question, please either put it in the chat or raise your hand in the comment piece, and we'll call on you real quickly. But David, do you mind if I start? I guess he's okay with it.
Absolutely.
Didn't say anything. So Betsy, thank you so much, and you're perfect with your kind of overview, because what I think, you know, I hear, having been here for 13 years now, is you know, Milliken has always been kind of that known secret in the upstate. You know, everybody knows there's Milliken, but we don't necessarily know, if you're not engaged in the realm, much about it. So you did a great job of kind of illustrating that in many different ways, and all the products and different things. And you alluded to at your performance center where you guys have all the products. I mean, it's pretty amazing what you guys have there. But talk a little bit, because you know, you talked from the beginning, and you really framed it well from the beginning to the end about how your values and your culture as a company lead to all the things that you've been recognized as a company for in the end. But that doesn't happen in a vacuum. I mean, it happens when you get total buy-in from top to bottom and bottom to top. How has that culture, because Milliken, as you mentioned, is a family-owned company, how have you all been able, or the company been able to instill and maintain such a dynamic, you know, history of success in the culture that it has grown up in?
That's such a big question. I'll do my best to answer it. I think, first of all, because we are a privately owned company, we have the luxury of a little bit more of a long game perspective than a publicly owned and traded company that's really tracking progress sort of just by quarterly, quarterly financial reports and sort of having to make knee-jerk decisions based on those. Because we're a privately owned company, we're able to take a slower, more strategic approach to the things that we want to make sure that we do and to the positive change that we want to make. But more so, I think, and I'll just speak, Dean, to my experience here in the last 4.5 years, our leadership really values the expertise and knowledge and leadership of our team. And so I mentioned, so right before I came to Milliken, our CEO, Halsey Cook, came, and he was the first CEO to come from outside of the company. So every other CEO prior to Halsey was either a Milliken family member or they were sort of raised up from within the company. Halsey came in externally, and I think he was really wise to take the time to work with our 8,000 people to craft a purpose together. We crafted this purpose statement together, and we articulated our values together. And we didn't create a statement and values that were overly aspirational. I mean, they are aspirational, but they are values that are true to who we are. We were already all about operational excellence at Milliken. And so we named that. And now we have something to strive to. We've named that as a value. And now we have a framework to live up to that. We were always about doing the right thing. And again, now we've created sort of a rigor and a structure for living up to that. This is a little known fact, but Milliken had its first recycling policy established in 1901. So sustainability was already in our DNA. And now, as you see, through our commitment to net zero and our other sustainability efforts, we've named that and created guardrails and a framework for how to live up to it. I've probably seen the most progress in my time at Milliken and my time in Spartanburg around our people goal and the work that we do to really advance inclusion in Spartanburg and in the company. But again, that was already a little bit of our DNA. And innovation, of course, has always been a part of Milliken. So I think the best answer, if you just look at what we did, if you're in your company or your organization and you're trying to really strengthen the values, build a culture around it, is to work with your people to identify who you already are and how you want to grow that and systematize it so that it becomes rigorous and firm, and so that everything you do ladders up to those pillars. There's not a decision that's made without looking at our values and making sure that it checks the boxes and doesn't run counter to those. So it's remembering who you are and agreeing on that as a people, and then creating structure around it so that it's our guiding principles on everything we do, in my opinion.
Great. David, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a question, so I want to give time for others if they have them, but I do want to share a comment. And, you know, we're all here in the upstate, and we think about our corporate partners, and, you know, our Michelins and our BMWs come to mind quickly. And here we are talking to the brand and communications guru for Milliken. And Betsy, you got to be really fired up about the opportunity and the message you get to share with all of us. And I think maybe the challenge, again, there is no question, but the challenge here is to dig into who Milliken is, go play around on their website and get an understanding of their locations in China. And this format, this I hope this deck gets shared with everyone after it can be shared with everyone, because I think it's just speaks to the breadth of what Milliken is. And again, I mentioned it in my earlier comments, the commitment to economic and social governance, the 1901, you guys were recycling before it was cool and anyone even knew what recycling was. That's something we should be really proud of here in South Carolina. And this is a state that doesn't have any headquarters for Fortune 500 companies. And so, you looked at something like Milliken that is headquartered here and probably has had many opportunities and many reasons to be headquartered elsewhere. And you've chosen to be here and stay here in the upstate. And I'm really proud of Milliken, and I think lots of us are, and maybe there's still a good bit of work for you to do, Betsy, in making sure that the others know how great Milliken is.
Yeah. And thank you for that. I agree. When I had the opportunity to come to Milliken, I was really blown away by the opportunity to be a part of something bigger right here where I grew up, and to help model what I think are the right values in a state that is so often getting those things right, but sometimes isn't. And I do think that the corporate world can play a role as an influencer and try to urge the state in the right direction on some of these things. But Milliken is also very, very much a part of the community. And I'm looking at all these faces on here. I'm looking at you, Keisha and Annalise and Dudley, and so many folks who are key partners in us understanding, what the needs of our community are, and also holding us accountable for how to be, not only as a corporate organization, but as a member of the community. So we're lucky to be here, David, is the short response to that.
So Betsy, I'll get you out on this one. We mentioned earlier, you guys are hosting the Peak event on the 2nd of October, and we'll certainly, Justine will talk about that in a few minutes. But, that is upstate wide. You mentioned that you guys are involved with the Greenville Drive. You have plants in multiple counties in the upstate. I think, certainly when Halsey came in, he said we need to really engage beyond just where our headquarter location is in Spartanburg and be more regional and probably more statewide and global and all those things. But can you talk maybe very quickly about that strategy and how you all are embracing your role, not just in Spartanburg, where you have been such an important part of the fabric for generations, but now across the upstate and larger?
Yeah, there's so many ways to answer that, Dean. Thank you for that question. I like to talk about our approach as being a global player with a hyper local approach. So we are a global manufacturer, but we really try to zone in and give special care to the places where our people live, work, and play. And that manifests itself in many different ways. One of those ways is by being strategic about the way that we grow, acquiring companies or expanding into places where it makes sense from a supply chain and a community aspect to grow. We don't want to be one of those people who creates an ingredient in one place and then ships it across the world for one thing and then ships it back across the world for another thing. That's kind of counter to our model of excellence, efficiency, and certainly sustainability. So we do try to have a hyper-local approach to our supply chains. And it also is emerging as we care for our communities. So we have a newly reestablished Milliken and Company Foundation, which was reformed in 2020 and is growing and really trying to make an impact in all the places where we work. We just made our first foundation gift in Zhangjiagang, China this year, and just today made one in Wigan in the UK, which is where one of our locations in England is. So really trying to keep a global mindset and a global approach to everything that we do, but understand the needs of our communities and support those communities, both from supply chain and collaborative business aspect, and also as a community development player.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Betsy. And again, I'm working from home this afternoon. I have a friend here with me, so
It's great.
She wants to say hi to everybody. But thank you, Betsy, and we appreciate obviously your time today and telling us the story, but also all that Milliken does and is involved with, and certainly with 10 at the top. And again, October 2nd, we're coming your way, so we're looking forward to having the peak in Spartanburg.
Yeah, please do come out. We hope to see you all and invite your friends too. It should be a good time.
All right, so Justine, I will turn it over to you to talk a little bit about our events and then to introduce our resource update.
All right, thank you. I feel like you talked about the events, but I can always talk more about the events. As Dean mentioned, Blues, Brews, and Barbecue is on Monday, and it's not too late to grab some tickets to come out and see Mac Arnold and his friend Roots and Door, some great blues, and we'll have some brews, obviously, and some barbecue too, and some wine. And you get to see the brand new Bridgeway Station. It's a really beautiful spot, easy to get to right off 385. Of course, we also talked about Peak for Young Professionals coming up at Milliken on October 2nd. And while it is for young professionals, you don't really have to be one to go. And that goes up to 40 technically, but I'm not one and I'll be there. So it will be fun. We are doing it's basically 1 to 7. Don't be alarmed. It's really 1 to 5 with 3 really great workshops. There's an entrepreneurial workshop focused on Spartanburg, small businesses and entrepreneurs, and growing that, and kind of all the ways that the types of entrepreneurs and the ways that entrepreneurs can grow. A really fun one with Dr. Gail Owan from the Urban League of the Upstate on the entertainment and film industry in the Upstate and how we can bring it. And also Camber Parker from Yo Pro No is doing a workshop on intergenerational communication, all the way from, I guess, down from the boomers down to the Gen Z. I think that's the latest. I'm not exactly sure because I'm not a YP. And then we have B. Ray is going to do a really fun keynote, and then executive roundtables, I forgot to mention, which is really fun for the YPs. If you would like to be someone who sits at an executive roundtable, which is exactly what it sounds like, you go in, there's tables of 10, two lovely people. It sounds like Betsy and David were together last year. Sit down and they just come and find you and sit down and have a nice chat for 20 minutes. But let me know if you'd like to do it. We still have space for that and I can get you signed up. Or if you know someone who you think would be fantastic in that capacity. And B. Ray is doing the keynote. And then we have a networking reception afterwards in the beautiful atrium at Milliken with the waterfall wall. Hopefully we can have the waterfall wall on. We'll have to see how the conversation goes around that because we don't want it to be too loud, but it's so beautiful. We are super excited. So Peak tickets, everything's on our website. We also do have an event coming up in Anderson. Our Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem is going to be featuring a super fantastic gentleman, and I'm going to have to cheat and look at it so I don't get his name wrong. Travis, he is with Wexford Science and Technology, and they build innovation districts all around the country. Super interesting. We're going to be doing a lunch in Anderson on October 6th. Travis Sheridan. I'm sorry, Travis. We are charging a little tiny bit for that just to cover him coming out and renting the space and all that good stuff. And then we hope to see you on our next Tatt Chat, which will be October 12th. And we will be hearing, we're doing kind of workforce development with Charles Appleby and Robert Davis. So we're looking forward to all those things. But the best part is I get to introduce our own GP McClear, who is the director of our Upstate Mobility Alliance, to do our resource update this month. Man of many hats. GP, are you still here?
I'm here. Sorry, the ballet class did not open their doors as soon as I wanted them to. I'm on a little bit of dad duty this afternoon.
Sweet.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. I've actually got something I think I can try to share on my phone, actually, because you can do that now on Zoom. Talk about two things. The Upstate Mobility Alliance is an initiative of 10 at the top. It's been around since about 2019 officially. And we focus on transportation solutions and advocacy work across the 10 counties in the upstate. It's everything from trails to the airport and the roads in between. And the two things I wanted to highlight today with everybody is first some work we've done in rural transportation, and then second, a big current project we have with GSP International Airport. So first, I'll talk about GSP International Airport. Just a couple weeks ago, month or two ago now, we were awarded a $100,000 from SCDOT to conduct a feasibility study on bus service to and from GSP International Airport. Essentially trying to solve the problem of why isn't there bus service already, and is it feasible for the future? We had a kickoff meeting earlier today on that, actually, and you'll be seeing that report come out in about March of next year to help answer that question one way or the other for the benefit of the upstate. The other big thing I wanted to mention was rural transportation. Everybody thinks that bus service is all there is to public transportation, or maybe a subway, but there's a lot more to that, especially in our rural communities where bus service is not realistic for reliable, frequent service that reaches the people it needs to. Public transportation doesn't always look like a bus. And so what we have done, though, at the Mobility Alliance is we have helped our communities, which include Greenwood County, Abbeville County, and Union County, as well as Cherokee County, but they haven't launched yet, launch public transportation. Typically, these are van on call services. And what I've put on the screen here is a quick snapshot on how those are going. You can see in Greenwood and Abbeville, who have the most data to report, we've seen an increase in every year so far between year one and year two, and a pretty good increase we expect for this current year of the number of passengers that have ridden public transportation in those rural counties and the number of miles those passengers have driven. And those two metrics in particular help dictate the amount of federal funding that goes back into those communities to support public transportation in their 2-year funding cycles. So you can see that data there. What's important to note for Union County that I put in the notes is they're not even 12 months into this, and they're already increasing their hours, an hour on each side. That service will run from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. now instead of just 7 to 5. Additionally, what I didn't put on here is 75% of those rides in Union County are people going to and from work. And that's what we see. We see a lot of folks getting to work, and we see a lot of also senior citizens getting to appointments or social events that they need to get to as well. And so we have helped these 3 counties, as well as Cherokee, who is in the process of getting their designation as public transit authority. We have helped 4 counties in the upstate who did not have public transportation 2.5, 3 years ago now are either have it or are about to have it. And there's just one county left, and that's Lawrence, and we're working on them too. So that is what those are the stats that I wanted to share with you guys, and the two big highlights from the Upstate Mobility Alliance at this point. We just had a good event on electric vehicles and in preparing the upstate for that infrastructure. The recording of that is available on our website, as well as a quick synopsis. And we'll have more events to come. I'll turn it back over to you, Justine.
Alrighty, thank you. It's great to see some numbers. That's really cool. Alrighty, well, I get to wrap up today. Unless anyone has any last words of wisdom or questions they'd like to throw out, we'll give you back a couple minutes of your day and finish a little bit early. Alrighty, thanks so much for attending today. We hope to see you on Monday, Blues, Brews, and Barbecue.